You are watching a master at work.
The kid's back!
All right, so today we are talking about a case that happened in 1988, which was the assassination of an NYPD officer, Eddie Byrne. He was killed. He was only a month into the job, and he was killed because he was guarding a witness who was going to testify against a drug lord from the Supreme Team, Pappy Mason. And the reason why it's a story today is because one of the drivers, it was 4 men, I believe, arrested. One of the drivers is now being paroled at 60 years old, and you know, a lot of people have something to say about it. So let's check this out. All right. So, getaway driver in 1988 assassination of NYPD officer Eddie Byrne granted parole. This is the guy here at the time of the murder. So the story goes, this is according to the New York Post. The getaway driver in the 1988 assassination of NYPD officer Edward Byrne has been granted parole. A move the city's police union called especially outrageous on Wednesday. Scott Cobb, who is now 60 years old, could be released from prison as early as next month after serving 34 years behind bars for his part in the gangland execution of the rookie cop that shocked the nation at the height of the crack epidemic. So, like I was saying, this happened in Queens, New York, but because of it being in the 80s, during the crack epidemic, this was an assassination, a hit on the police officer. I think George Bush Sr. was walking around carrying Edward Byrne's badge as he was running for president of the United States to get the police support behind him to show that he will support police so that things like this don't continue to happen under his watch. The story continues. All cop killer paroles are infuriating, said PBA President Patrick Hendry. But this one is especially outrageous considering the shockwaves this crime sent throughout this precinct, the NYPD, the city, and nation, as I just explained. Byrne was 22 and had been on the force for just a month when he was ambushed by Cobb and 3 accomplices while guarding the home of a witness who was planning to testify against drug kingpin Howard Pappy Mason, one of the heads of the Supreme Team, if you're familiar with the Supreme Team. Now, it goes on to say, Cobb drove the gunman to South Jamaica, Queens intersection where Byrne was parked in the early hours of February 26, 1988, and distracted the officer while the killers unloaded 5 rounds into his head at point blank range. This is Scott Cobb in March of 88. He was caught 6 days after the killing. Cobb and the 3 other co-conspirators split an $8,000 payment for the cold-blooded murder. Now, when I read this, I said, they only did it for $8,000? That's insane. Now, of course, with inflation and times change, I did my Googling. You can do your own research. $8,000 in 1988 was equivalent to about $20,000 today, which is like saying for a used BMW, they did the hit, right? So it's like this officer's life was pretty much like, you gotta sometimes put things in framing and context like that in order to see it from a different lens. Like, they literally killed this dude for them, splitting $8,000. That's like $2,000 a piece. Incredible. And it sounds crazy, but people are still doing stuff like this today. We just saw with the XXXTentacion killers. I think it was similarly 3 to 4 guys, and they split about $15,000 to $20,000. So it's almost the exact same scenario. So $8,000 then, which would have been equivalent to about $20,000 today. Each were sentenced to 25 years to life. Byrne's killing struck as a chord that then President Ronald Reagan, pardon me, I said Bush earlier, personally called his family to offer condolences. Oh, I was right. And years later, President George Bush brought the officer's badge with him to the Oval Office. All right, let's go. I was on point with that detail. This is another picture of Todd Scott being led out of the 105th precinct in March of '88. The NYPD commemorates the anniversary of Byrne's death each year with a midnight ceremony at the intersection where he was killed. When Eddie Byrne was assassinated, it galvanized cops in the community to work together to take our streets back from these violent drug gangs, Hendry said in a statement. So what he's pretty much framing it as, when this happened, that term war on drugs got real. They started taking everything and everybody. You selling crack, we coming to your house, we taking your mama down, we taking your little sisters down, we taking your handicapped brother down, and they all gonna do time. And we taking the house because they were living off the proceeds of your drug dealing. And now, if you want mama to go home and you want your sisters and your handicapped brother to go home, you need to cooperate. Plead guilty or roll over on these other people and they'll go home. You think I'm joking? Look up what happened with Fat Cat Mama, same situation. They locked her up. Now, the story goes on to continue. This was Eddie Byrne's legacy, and the insane parole board is tearing it to shreds, the PBA boss added. This is a picture of Eddie Byrne at 22 years old. New York City police officers are absolutely sickened by this parole decision, and New Yorkers who care about safe streets should be too. Caught within a week of the slaying, Cobb was convicted of second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. So he was only charged with second-degree murder. State prison records show he is expected to be released as of August 9th. This was a picture of the funeral procession for Eddie Byrne. It goes on to say Cobb first became eligible for parole in 2013, but they denied it at the time. In 2014, Byrne's brother, Larry, joined the NYPD as his deputy chief of legal matters to keep the family's legacy alive and petition that the state parole board to keep his brother's killers behind bars. Unfortunately, Larry Byrne served as the family spokesperson and advocate for years until he died in 2020 of a heart attack at 61 years of age. So that means Eddie Byrne didn't have any immediate family left, I'm assuming, in this situation. In 2014, he had joined the board to make sure that these guys never got free. This is a picture of some of the tributes that they had to Eddie Byrne. The PBA told the Post Byrne's family was devastated by Cobb's parole being granted, but did not want to speak publicly about the decision. So, yeah, I'm thinking it's nothing, no immediate family members. If his brother died at 61, it's probably older family members, maybe cousins, nephews, things like that. The 3 other men convicted in Byrne's murder, Todd Scott, David McClary, and Philip Copeland, all remain behind bars. McClary and Copeland will be eligible for parole in the fall. It'll be interesting to see if they're guaranteed parole as the actual trigger men. I don't think this is going to be likely. We need you to speak up and demand that our elected leaders in Albany fix the broken parole system so that none of the other Byrne assassins go free, the PBA president said. Up to 36 cop killers have been paroled by the New York Parole Board since 2017, according to data from the PBA. That data also doesn't say how long those 36 cop killers did, if they were all arrested back in the 30s. Basically, they feel as though if you murdered a police officer, you should never see the light of day on these streets again. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's my personal views on everything. Because my father is a retired police officer. So I love to get his input on stuff like this, just to see how the other side views things and how, other people may see from the opposite end of the spectrum. And he said to me, he did his 20 years, and he said to me, how would you feel if somebody ended my life, because he was in the force at that time, just starting similarly, and now they're free to live possibly another 30 years with freedom, which I definitely understand. But my thing is this is the problem with the system. Because if we believe in the justice system and that putting people in prison is supposed to be punitive, but also supposed to help them rehabilitate, if this man has been there going on 30-something, almost 35 years, and the parole board may see that when he committed this offense, he was 25, 26 years old. Now, 34 years later, he's not had any issues, no major issues, at least maybe within the last few years. He might have completely turned himself around and be another person than the person that he was at that time, with more maturity and more understanding of his actions. And possibly he may even be somebody who can prevent others from doing this. He can possibly be someone that is used as a positive contributor to our society. Maybe he does deserve another chance in the streets and another opportunity to live his life. He did the time. They gave him 25 to life. He did 30 plus. Do we believe that prison is to rehabilitate people and to change people? Or do we feel as though people like this never deserve another chance, even though he was in his 20s when he made this, decision to help take this police officer's life? Should that be the end all be all? Does that decision, and that's the crazy thing about life. Not to say that he was an angel before this, but something you do at a specific period of your life has the ability to affect the rest of your life. You understand? So it's like a decision that he made at 26 years old. Now he's 60 years old, possibly a reformed man. Should he not be given another chance? Should he? Yes, the family went through tragedy, pain, and hurt, but it appears that immediate members of his family are no longer living. So that victim's impact isn't as big anymore, because those people are no longer here with us to advocate for their loved one. But like I said, this is the PBA we're talking about. So in their mind, they feel like he should probably never see the light of day. And talking about this 34 years later probably doesn't have the same impact as it would have had when it first happened. So I think it's important that to frame this and to get the proper context, let's check out the news story from when it first happened back in the 80s. Yeah. So let's check this out.
Get asked us, and here's what's happening. Men who are tougher than most, veteran police officers, are shedding tears tonight for a rookie cop executed in cold blood. Officer Edward Byrne was just 22 years old, the son of a retired police lieutenant. Officer Byrne was shot early this morning as he sat in his parked patrol car. He was on stakeout assignment in the South Jamaica section of Queens. That portion of the 103rd precinct is known as a drug-dealing supermarket.
The execution is being read as a bold message from drug peddlers, but tonight, heavily armed police units are patrolling South Jamaica, sending out a message of their own. Jim Doling is live now at the scene. Jim?
Tidy on the patrol car, standing guard out here tonight, a black cross, mourning the loss of one of their youngest, one of their newest, one of their own. You know, this neighborhood here in South Jamaica is never very calm. The crack dealers and criminals make sure of that, but it is particularly tense out here tonight after the brazen, cold-blooded murder of a man who wanted only to keep this neighborhood safe. The police mean to put the men responsible in jail, men who overpowered a young police officer here earlier this morning as he sat alone in his car, never getting the chance to pull his own gun. It is a mistake the police are unlikely to make again. Tonight they are armed with 9mm automatics and more. They wear bulletproof vests and they patrol the area. Other automatics and more.
Look at the straps they pulled out at the time. My man got with the cooler and everything, yo. They brought out the Uzi. They brought out the little Uzi on them. Damn, high tech. They wasn't playing that night. They said, y'all want to go to war? You want to go to war? Damn.
They wear bulletproof vests and they patrol the area. Other police go door to door to get some hint of what happened. But neighbors are reluctant to say much. A man who will kill a cop will kill anyone. One neighbor hung a black ribbon on a signpost to remember Edward Byrne.
We have what appears to be a deliberate assassination of a police officer acting in the performance of his duty.
Byrne was in his patrol car early this morning, parked in front of this man's house. He is a witness in a major drug-selling case against Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, who now resides on Rikers Island. Police believe that it's possible that Nichols engineered this hit from his Rikers Island jail cell. The parked car pulled up with its lights off. Two men got out, and one fired into the patrol car, killing Byrne, a police officer, for just 4 weeks. This afternoon, police found the car in question, but a man who was near the vehicle has not been charged by police. He is being questioned. Police report that man was questioned and then later released this evening. They have arrested no one else in connection with this murder. This is not the first time that there has been violence at this home of this important drug witness. There were 2 fire bombings late last year. Nobody has been hurt before a young police officer was gunned down early this morning. Reporting live from South Jamaica, I'm Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Jim. And tonight, angry questions are being hurled at Police Commissioner Benjamin Ward. Among them, why was Officer Byrne out there alone? Ward, who took time out for a police promotion ceremony today, defended the solo patrol. He said there was no warning that Byrne was, in fact, in danger.
The witness was the person we were protecting and not the police officer. The threats were against the witness and not against the police officer. There was no indication of anyone trying to stop the police from enforcing drug laws or protecting witnesses in that area.
Commissioner Ward said,
in his defense, in Commissioner Ward's defense, this is why that shooting was such a big thing, because previously you would be able to sit a cop car. If you ever see movies from like the 80s and stuff like that, they will often say, "Oh, we got a cop car. We got a car sitting outside," because previously in those times, just the vision, just to see a cop car sitting outside of a residence like that, people wouldn't dare. You wouldn't dare. But this was so bold and brazen that it was just like, it was shocking. It was like, what? They did this to a police officer? God damn. So that's why it was just that one cop out there in his defense, because at that time, this was unheard of.
Said that he was angered by Byrne's murder, and he told the audience the killers would be caught and the attempt to scare people off the war on drugs would not work. Despite the murder,
you heard that war on drugs, that slogan.
One-man patrols continue tonight. This lone officer was guarding a house in Queens where border babies are sheltered. Last summer, that house was firebombed. The officer said the solo assignment didn't bother him and that he didn't think that this particular stakeout posed any danger.
That's where we are. He's scheduled to be released next month. Scott Cobb. Wonder if he'll come back to Queens. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what's the next steps, where this goes from here. He's definitely going to be met with a lot of Blue Lives Matter supporters, hate and disdain. So, what's next, man? Do you think this guy's going to come out and be a positive contribution to society, try to steer the youth away? Or maybe he just might say, listen, for my own selfish and personal gain, home does positive in the community, of course, but that he also sits down and does an interview, speak to what his mind state was at the time, and possibly work to, help steer the children away from the path and the decisions that he made at that age. So, what do y'all think, man? This is a good one. Comment. Do you think Scott Cobb should be able to be free again and see the light of day? Or are you one of those who believe if you kill a cop, you should never be able to walk these streets again? Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. This was a little bit of a long one, but this is food for thought. Y'all do the dishes. King Blake, thank y'all for tuning in once again to the one and only Blake Check. We gone!